Good morning, Kansas City. Let's take a look at today. Let's. Today is. Today's.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Luke's Reviews. On today's video, the GOAT himself, Steven Spielberg, has another sci-fi thriller for us, but at nearly the age of 80, does the acclaimed, iconic director still have the juice? Let's find out in my review of Disclosure Day. The film opens right off the bat with Josh O'Connor's character Daniel on the run from the secretive agency known as Wardex. Clearly in possession of highly classified materials, Daniel is determined to keep the information secure before making it public. Meanwhile, local weather reporter Maggie, played by Emily Blunt, is experiencing strange phenomena, such as being able to read people's minds and, seemingly speaking, in a bizarre, non-human language. What does this all mean? Well, aliens are real. And how will the world react when this is found out? That final part of my summary is the question that Steven Spielberg is posing with this film. If we look back to 1977, Spielberg asked audiences, are we alone in the universe? With his sci-fi classic, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But in Disclosure Day, Spielberg moves beyond the hypotheticals and stands steadfast in the belief that aliens are real. He's not concerned about the ifs. What he wants to analyze and present is how will the world react when that is found out. And so, immediately, this is a much more mature Spielberg behind the camera. There's very little sci-fi flashiness to be found. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the first 2 hours of Disclosure Day actually plays out more like a grounded conspiracy thriller. In those initial 2 hours, I've got to be honest, we're not working with Spielberg's best here. I still think it's worth noting that Spielberg, even when he's not at 100%, he is still better than, I'd wager, maybe 85% of the movie directors working today on their best day. He's the greatest of all time for a reason. I sincerely do believe that, by the way. I think he is the greatest director to have ever lived. But given the potential that this film had, I do feel like it's somewhat underdelivered. It is predominantly a game of cat and mouse. You have the encroaching presence of the mysterious agency Wardex versus our heroes who are desperate for the truth to find its way out into the public. But the pacing of Disclosure Day is deliberately, but nonetheless, still a slow burn. On several occasions, I was pleading in my seat for the film to just find the next gear and kick it up a notch, but Spielberg and his team, they seem quite content at just moving things along at a very gradual pace. The other aspect that I didn't love was the screenplay's almost complete opposition to providing the audience with any answers, or shall I say answers in a timely fashion. You do get answers, but I would go so far as to say that they come too late. The mystery loses its sense of engagement because we're withheld so many answers. David Coep's screenplay is engaging, but it is almost like they're dangling a carrot in front of you for 2 hours and you're not even getting a little taste. You're provided nothing until the climax comes in, and I don't think that was necessarily the best way to handle it. However, and I cannot believe that this was ever in any doubt, this is Steven Spielberg we're talking about here. For those that were unsure whether he still had the juice, whether he could still go, this proves he's good. He's fine. There is nothing that's going to slow him down for a long while to come. His direction is just unparalleled. Admittedly, it's far less flashier than his larger projects, but there are still so many instances, whether it be his blocking, his framing, or overall structure to a scene, just reinforces the fact that he's untouchable. There's always a fluidity to his films, and whilst I had issues with the pacing, I was never bored. And with it being a Spielberg film, of course it means collaborating with longtime partners and cinematographer Janusz Kaminski. The film looks incredible. His films always do. There is that blue, overexposed tone that is awash across the frame. It's very similar to how films like AI and Minority Report looked, which for me makes sense because stylistically they go hand in hand, but also thematically, those films ponder some really existential questions, as does Disclosure Day. John Williams is back composing original music. You just that combination can't be beat. Spielberg, John Williams, is it his best work? No, but it's still a very tender and touching score. Again, one goat in Steven Spielberg, you've got another goat in John Williams. They cannot go wrong together. And the cast are all doing outstanding work as well. The only slight hang up that I had was actually Josh O'Connor. I thought that perhaps he was a bit too one note in the role. And yeah, he's an incredibly talented actor. And after seeing the nuance that he brought to his role in Wake Up Dead Man, I was kind of hoping for the same here. But whether it was him, whether it was the way the character was written, it just never fully finessed together. Colman Domingo, that man, in my eyes, was born to work with Spielberg. For whatever reason, their overall approaches just seem to marry so well together, and I hope that, whilst this isn't like a leading role in this film, I hope that it's a collaboration that we see in many, many films to come between the two of them. Eve Hewson, someone who I'm not entirely familiar with, I thought she made a solid impression, especially as her character is given quite unique obstacles to overcome. And whilst Colin Firth is always reliable in any project you put him in, I couldn't help but believe that he was slightly miscast as the closest thing that this film has to an antagonist. But the life of Disclosure Day stems from Emily Blunt, an actress who has had many career highlights, but this one might just top the list. Her performance requires a great deal of moving cogs meshing together. She is essentially a vessel for the film's larger, more substantial theme, something that I'll touch on in a moment, but she is a beacon. She's utterly fantastic. I know it's slight early days, but I'm willing to make a pretty solid prediction that I think she might nab an Oscar nomination here. So, as I had said, Disclosure Day is 2.5 hours long, and in those opening 2 hours, I was enjoying the film, but I wasn't exactly bowled over. It wasn't what I had hoped for. And then the final 30 minutes hit. And no, they did not permanently change my overall perspective of the movie. But they did give me exactly what I had hoped that this movie would be. Spielberg has crafted a finale that had my eyes glued to the screen. It is a summation of all of the greatest elements of his filmmaking quality, combining empathy, which is sorely needed in our world right now. And in this, maybe it's a little bit more exaggerated, but the world mirrors our own. And then supplanting that empathy alongside the sensation of awe. I truly was absolutely blown away by the final 30 minutes because it just highlights that when Spielberg is firing on all cylinders, he cannot be beat. So overall, there are some mixed emotions. My overriding feeling about Disclosure Day is that I wish the rest of the movie was at the same quality as those final 30 minutes. But then, perhaps would that finale have been as effective to me? Captained by a Spielberg that is asking his audience to think reactively rather than analytically, he's able to, on one hand, present cinema goers with an entertaining, if somewhat plodding, sci-fi thriller, but also on the other, attempt to create a dialogue about things in the universe that are far greater than us. Some may be left waning, whilst others will be intrigued to listen. So I'm going to give Disclosure Day a 7.5 out of 10. Anyway, guys, those were my thoughts on Disclosure Day. Let me know, have you had the chance to see the film yet? What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And my question to you, I would like to know, what do you think is the best performance in a Spielberg movie? Maybe I'm going with the obvious choice here, or maybe I'm going with the lesser known. Henry Thomas in E.T. I think it's one of the all-time great child actor performances, and it was the first that sprung to mind. I don't think there's a great deal that can top it. But that is all the time we have for today. So thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.